Chair. Senate Bill 158 is very simple. It just calls for a non-binding advisory referendum on this November's ballot. And it asks the basic question, should Virginia enact a law that establishes a bipartisan redistricting commission? I think it's time that we let the people weigh in on this issue. I know that we very rarely use referendum in Virginia, but just this year, nearly every member of this subcommittee voted for a non-binding referendum in House Bill 210. And all I'm asking for is that we let the people who we represent express their opinion on this very important issue. If we don't like their opinion, we can ignore it. It is a non-binding referendum, but at least we will know where they stand. I am told that the last non-binding referendum statewide that we had was in 1914. So I think every 100 years it's only appropriate that we bring back to ask people what they think. There are several very prominent Virginians who've asked that I mentioned they support that. That's Jim Ucrop, and Judy Watson, and Lee Middleditch, and John Stone. All support this, and I hope it's the pleasure of the committee to approve the bill.
Do we have questions?
Looks like you got a really good bipartisan vote out of the Senate. We have many Republicans are supporting this effort. That's heartwarming. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, the Senate has, in a bipartisan effort over the 6 years that I've introduced bipartisan redistricting legislation, supported. And this, I think, got even more support because it's just asking people for their opinion.
Elliot Rush.
I mean, the question, I guess I'm reading the question here, is very broad. How would you envision the bipartisan commission working?
Well, that's going to have to be something that's going to have to work out if we go down that road. You know,
I mean, sorry, not to be interrupted, but I mean, obviously you thought a lot about this. I mean, do you have some ideas?
Sure. I've offered plans that Senator Dees has and others, but my plan would be a 5-member commission that would include the leaders of the House and the Senate, and then they would all get together and appoint a person to be the chair, and they would move forward with that. But there are other models and other ways to do it. That's just one way.
I guess if our friend Elliot Sickles he's the chair of their campaign caucus, if he was to have his ways and defeat a lot of House of Delegate members, we go from 68 to 48, then you would have both parties in appointing, or we'd have one party in charge of both houses, you'd have one party appointing. Or if my party was to get the Senate, which I guess would be slightly easier by taking one seat, then both parties would, or the one party would have the complete power to appoint a bipartisan commission.
You would have representatives from both parties on that commission. There'd be two Republicans, 2 Democrats, and then they would try and find however neutral could be, a 5th person. But I believe we ought not to be electing people just because they have an R or a D after their name, but on their vision for Virginia. And I think the way we've got the system now, it's more dependent on that R or D.
See, this has a fiscal impact. Did you submit a budget amendment for this?
I did not.
And so I assume it was not included in the Senate budget.
It was not. My thought was that it could easily be handled by within the Department of the Board of Elections as they put other ballots on other issues on the ballot.
No. A brain.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves in talking about what the composition of any advisory commission is, aren't we? I mean, as I see it, what this does is simply to authorize an advisory referendum, which is, as you pointed out, is an extraordinary measure to let the people say how they want to be governed. Is that right?
That's right. I tried to make that point, that this doesn't address how we're going to proceed or how we're going to set up that commission. All this does is ask the people for their opinion on whether or not they think creating a commission would be a good idea.
And the experience in other states that have gone to nonpartisan or bipartisan redistricting, taking it out of the hands of the people who would be running in those districts. The other states have gone down a number of different roads in order to achieve this goal. Isn't that right?
There are several different models out there. Iowa has one. California just did one. Colorado's got another.
One more, this is more of a comment than a question. Given the experience of a number of states, I'm not a fan of putting everything on the ballot in order to speak, but this is so fundamental to the way that people are going to be governed that I think that it calls for an extraordinary referendum. As you've said, it's the first time in 100 years that we would have one, to let the people speak, because this goes to the basic question of who's going to choose the people that are going to govern.
And do we have anyone to speak on the bill in favor?
Madam Chairman and members, I'm Ann Sterling, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Virginia. We spend all of our time, members across the state, being champions of Virginia voters, and we are devoted to this particular cause. There's been real progress in Virginia. In the last 4 years, we saw not only a governor's commission, which everyone said couldn't work until it did, and there was also a student contest with 11 universities across Virginia, with teams of students learning how to use redistricting software and getting involved in the process. So we're really beginning to move forward here, and I think that Senator Miller's bill is another very modest but very powerful step in perhaps a new direction for Virginia, and certainly one that would work to the advantage of our voters. So we strongly recommend this bill, and we commend the Senator for his leadership in this area.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Ben Greenberg from Virginia Organizing. We support this measure because we believe we want to aspire to have a true representative democracy in this country, and what could possibly be better than to at least hear the people speak about an issue as important as this. So we urge you to support the measure. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Tory Williams, Roanoke Regional Chamber. We support the bill.
I'm sorry, what?
Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Diana Goshue, President of Virginia Now. We support this bill also. Thank you.
Anyone to speak in opposition of the bill? Motion.
Move to report.
Second.
If since it has fiscal impact for reporting, it needs to be referred to appropriations.
Okay. So we have a substitute. All those in favor to report to appropriations?
Well,
Okay.
I'd just like to make a point to my good friend Christiansburg that in this very General Assembly session, we set up the most bipartisan group in our ethics bill that we probably ever had to make sure that politics was taken out of any type of ethics complaint that is going to be filed against us. And I think that's a really good model that we might look to when we're putting together our, making sure this is bipartisan and to get the politics out of this completely.
Madam Chairman, first of all, I appreciate the senator taking the leadership role in this. My concern is that the question is so broad that that we have. Then when you try to implement it, that it'll be unworkable, and we'll have. Well, you know, if we were to put a referendum on it, how would does Virginia support clean air? well, then we would have overwhelming support for that. Now, how we would implement that in coal country would be different than how we may do it at the beach or different ways. So that's my concern, that the question is so broad that I think we all know the answer. I support a bipartisan commission to help this. But how do we get to that point is where I'm concerned with.
And we will have that debate.
Elliot Cole.
Yeah, I appreciate the patron's intent, but I don't think this is really needed. With 100 years ago, we didn't have modern polling techniques, so I mean, we can get a sense of the electorate just through polling. And we really had bipartisan redistricting this last time around. We had House controlled by Republicans and the Senate controlled by Democrats. So I don't have a substitute motion. I would move to table.
Okay, we have, second. Okay, we have a motion to table the bill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.